Yeah.
Welcome to the Treasury Elite Leadership Series. I would like to thank all our viewers and members for supporting this noble cause of Treasury Elite. Whose main objective is networking, knowledge sharing, and mentoring. Time and again, we bring in world class speakers and business leaders across the world in the field of treasury, global financial markets, entrepreneurship, leadership, and conduct various programs, webinars, and conferences in different formats. Treasury Elite Leadership Series is one such format where we learn from industry thought leaders about their experiences of running their businesses, opportunities and challenges they encounter, and broad global trends they see for the future. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abhishek Goenka, founder and CEO of IFA Global and Treasury Elite. We bring in world class FX, treasury, and financial transformations for companies across India over the last 15 years. And today we have Ms. Vibha Padalkar, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, HDFC Life. Vibha has been associated with HDFC since August 2008. She qualified as a member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales in 92 and is also a member of ICI. Prior to her appointment of HDFC Life, she has worked in various sectors as global business process management, global FMCG, and an international audit firm. Over the years, Vibha has received various awards from organizations such as Institute of Chartered Accountants, Economic Times, IMA, along with being recognized as one of the top 30 powerful women in business by Business Today. Welcome, Vibhaji. How are you doing today?
Very good, Abhishek. Thank you so much. A pleasure to be here and look forward to our next 40, 50 minutes together.
Glad to have you today as a part of the Treasury Elite Leadership Series. In the next 35 minutes, we would love to learn from your experience. So, my first question to you is I think one common thread which I could link with a lot of CEOs globally when
Yeah.
I talk is that this is not, they do not do this only for the money. At one point of time, it's other factors which play. So, I would like to ask you one single biggest reason for you to get out of bed every morning and get yourself to work. What is it that drives you today? Or if I may ask, what is your why?
I think I'm driven since I compete with myself. So I see myself wanting to do something better than what I did yesterday and what I did last year and before that. And I think that is what drives me. I give my 120% to whatever I take up, whether it's professionally or personally. So there's never a half-baked casual approach to anything. In fact, my family does force me to chill on holidays and again not make it a super holiday. So I am competitive by nature also. And I think that's what drives me. And I do have a Monday morning test wherein I do believe that one has to jump out of bed with enthusiasm on Monday morning, then crawl out of it.
Excellent, excellent. In fact, a lot of people, when I talk to them, a couple of them had the similar answer. They said that we don't know what's happening outside. We know that we have to improve every single day by an inch also. Until the time we are improving, we are comfortable, and then leave
Yeah,
everything for God to just give us whatever is there in our
absolutely.
destiny.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I think that's I echo that. Yes.
so that's a very valid point, ma'am. Uh, so we would love to know about your journey. You have had a pretty interesting journey over the last many years, and major highlights and milestones, and your three major learnings that you would like to share in the forum.
Yeah, so the journey has been that with HDFC Life now, I've been here for 12 years and I joined as the CFO. I then progressed to becoming the executive director and thereafter to MD and CEO. So a lot of things, excitement and learnings that have happened along the way. Um, to your second question, that was on learnings or
Yeah.
what would
So,
you?
so major three learnings or takeaways which keeps running in your mind over the last many years.
Yeah, first one is on learning to connect the dots. And world is a set of so-called varied occurrences, trends, and really people who can connect the dots can also see the opportunities as well as threats. there is no rule book usually, and you have to chart your own rule book. So learning to connect dots is the first one. Um, Second one is attention to detail. There is that requirement, especially in BFSI, but I'm sure in other industries as well, wherein one has to also look at the details while looking at the macro aspect of it. And third is to realize that one has to have the connect with people as against it being transactional. So also learning to enjoy the journey along the way, and also with our co-workers, um, other stakeholders. It could be shareholders, it could be our partners, it could be employees. So to build that personal connect is the third aspect, which really goes a very long way.
And that's excellent. So connecting the dots and making a personal connection is so very relevant.
Yeah, and looking at the details. Yeah.
And the details, of course. So, ma'am, in terms of the industry now, what structural changes? So, you have been in the industry for a pretty long time now. What structural changes are you seeing in the overall insurance industry in India, and how are Indian companies adapting to that? And when do you think insurance will become a pull product rather than just being a push product?
So what I'm seeing now is there is a lot of appetite for product innovation. So companies that innovate will do well. Also, both what you sell and how you sell, and the how you sell becomes important, especially on digital modes, on tying up on new ecosystems. So not necessarily through the traditional bank assurance, corporate agency kind of ecosystem, but also the non-intuitive ones, but becoming even more important today. So a retailer, for example, can sell insurance. Anyone who has a bunch of customers can sell whole host of products, and each one can become a financial mart. So that is the second aspect of um, uh, figuring out how the evolving nature of insurance is in India. Second aspect is risk management. Insurance in India has largely been on the back of savings related products, but now, especially the younger ages, is willing to talk about dying early, falling sick, living too long, the, the what if scenarios of all the negative things. They're no longer shying away from that. So that makes it even more interesting for us on how do we manage a customer's risk, various risks that he's facing. So that kind of a evolving ecosystem, like it has progressed abroad, is now happening very fast in India. And that's where we see ourselves being very well poised to take advantage of the opportunity that's emerging.
So, any major learnings or practices that possibly Indian companies need to adopt from the global and the much matured markets in insurance, which
Yeah,
comes into your
especially,
mind?
absolutely, especially on term insurance. If you were to look at the region in terms of Asia region, and you'll find that the levels of penetration of term, which is pure protection, is significantly higher than it is in India. And when you look at it in India, there is very little of social security for other than a government employee. Means that people have to put money aside that on, and again, the what if situation that they were not there, the breadwinner was not there. So that is a big learning. Covering for one's health, falling sick is the second part. And third is what does one do when one outlives and runs out of your own savings? Because where inflation is still pretty high, it is very possible that just putting it into bank fixed deposits, all your money in bank fixed deposits, will mean that one will run out of savings. And couple that with changing demographic and socioeconomic situation means that one no longer wants to live with one son or daughter. One wants to see the world and not adopt sannyas after your retirement, and so on. So things are changing very rapidly to what our parents and grandparents were going through.
Sure.
And so one needs to fend for oneself financially for many, many years after, maybe 20 years or 30 years after retirement.
So, are you seeing the kind of an inflection point just coming in India also, like we see in the developed markets? We are about to hit that inflection point where,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, and you know, to some extent, the pandemic has brought it on a little bit sooner. What we saw in the first 6 months of this year, I mentioned our results are just out. So we grew 38% on term insurance. We grew 38% coincidentally on annuities, which is the other end of the spectrum. One is living long in terms of annuities and dying too early in terms of term protection. So both grew 38%. So pretty robust growth that we have witnessed. Also, when you look at the number of Google searches for life insurance and HDFC Life, that has seen a spike, especially in the first 3 months post the lockdown. So those trends, still green shoots, still will take time, but definitely to your point, the inflection point has happened.
That's pretty interesting. So, ma'am, in terms of driving growth in financial services and insurance business, you know, uh, customers have to be raving fan of your product or your service. Any major innovation or practice that your company have undertaken to create extreme customer delight or client delight and trust while maintaining profitability? Any
Absolutely.
ideas?
This is, oh yeah, lots of them. And if you were to look at the evolution over the last 7, 8 years, we've had blockbuster product after the other. And the reason I say that with so much confidence is our products are not just some happy coincidence. It is designed almost like designing it in a lab after taking in inputs of what is it that people are worried about? What is the emerging socioeconomic trend, or what is the emerging health trend? And then we are solving for it in the current regulatory construct. So if you were to look at our term product, we were one of the first ones in the online space. And that also tried to address every reason why an average Indian was not buying term policy. So for example, he was saying that, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to outlive all of this, and you're going to be richer as a company because I've paid you a lot of premiums. So we said, okay, if you live X number of years, we'll give you your premiums back. So that took care of that. Then he said that, if I buy a 1 crore term policy today, 1 crore is going to be a meaningless amount, say 15 years down the line. So we said, okay, we'll give you in terms of increasing cover. It could be linked to inflation and so on. So the solving for each one of these is what resulted in a product that then there was a pull for that product. Cancer care is another one, wherein again, seeing the way breast cancer, for example, is alarmingly on the rise in India, and other cancers too, we came up with cancer care, which the platinum version not only gives a lump sum on detection of cancer, but actually more importantly, for the first 5 years after detection of cancer, one gets 1% of the sum assured per month for the next 5 years. Why? Because in all probability, a person is not going to be able to work. Apart from needing medical reimbursement insurance for the treatment itself, one also needs to have the home fires burning, especially if it happens to the wage earner, significant wage earner in the family. So you get a proxy. So if you have and the cover is 80 lakhs. So if you have for 80 lakhs, you get 80,000 rupees a month, which is not bad at all.
Right.
Those sorts of things which go beyond just the plain vanilla kind of a cover to say, this is which is what we have been used to, but having this kind of innovation. Sanchay Plus is another very well received product, which looks at how do I save when I can save, and how do I cover till say age of 99, which is effectively as long as I'm alive. And the amount is fixed, so there is no ambiguity in terms of equity markets and so on. So at least I'm removing some element of ambiguity when I retire, when I'm most vulnerable. So there are products like this which have a story behind it, and there's a rationale behind it, and that's why you see them doing well.
So you oversee a very large workforce of almost 19,000 plus people, if I'm not wrong. 51
Correct.
million customers,
Yeah.
more than 412 branches,
Yeah.
and over 250 partners. How do you create a world-class leadership team? And what are the traits when you look at hiring your leadership team?
I think I look at someone, obviously the technical qualifications are a given, and that's why I'm speaking to them. But what is important is that individual himself or herself has to have a mind and be driven with their own goals and their own aspirations. It can't just be that you're told something and then you go and execute it. That happens at junior level. So I want a driven individual, a self-driven, self-made individual that comes across with a mind, not afraid to voice one's one's opinions. That becomes important. Second is the individual has to have a certain level of ethics in terms of being a good fit within the HDFC culture. And that's even more important in a BFSI sector, which is highly regulated. You are managing other people's money. So the levels of ethics and governance have to be extremely high. So that is the second aspect of it. And third aspect of it is the culture, in terms of the person needs to fit into our culture, which is we don't micromanage. We are a reasonably flat organization. It is non-hierarchical. At the same time, the culture is extremely demanding. We live in a state of paranoia, not because that we are undecided, but it's because we do believe that there is nothing like reaching the top. There's always another peak to be scaled, and if you're not very careful, somebody else will overtake us in no time. So that intense level of delivery and the treadmill the individual has to be comfortable with. I think these three are the three broad aspects that I would look at in an individual.
Sure, sure. One personal life-changing experience for you, and how did you evolve spiritually post that?
I think both come down to the spiritualness of giving birth, both in my personal life and professional. Um, that happened in 1999 in my personal life with my son. And it happened 3 years ago on 17th, beautiful number, 17th of November 2017, with this company, and when we listed. And both are, in a way, there's a saying, I think that there's this a statue on your way to Bandra, which says that, I think something along the lines of, a child gives birth to a mother. And for a long time, I didn't understand what that meant. And it was obvious that a mother gives birth to a child and not the wife. But I finally understood what that means. And in both private and personal, private as well as professional. The private is the obvious one, but in professional, by delivering this company to become a listed company was one, of course, an emotional moment, because we've nurtured it for so many years and got it just right to be worthy to set sail on the high seas. But also the enormous amount of responsibility that it puts on us as a management team of doing the right thing, giving the right messages, to be a responsible corporate leader, and so on, to not let our parent company down, given that we are bestowed by this great brand, and so on. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, just as with motherhood as well as a lot of responsibility. So I think that's the spiritual moment.
Since you mentioned about motherhood, and I'm sure there must be a lot of instances which come into your mind, and my next question would be on that. Since you have had a pretty successful sprint as a woman leader, this is a question for all the women leaders who are listening to this today. How do women leaders keep a balance between career and personal lives? I believe they have to really play many roles in their lives. I mean, you had to shuttle down between your work and taking care of your son. I was reading an article where you said that you used to go in the evenings to make sure your son is asleep and then come back to work just to make sure there's a balance.
That was before that was before the work from home kind of thing.
Yeah. So any strong message you want to leave for all women leaders, whether it be in the professional field or entrepreneurship, who always thinks that they have too much on the plate, and sometimes it's difficult to manage all of them together, and maybe 20-25 years when they turn 50 or 55 or 60, they start feeling that they have not done enough. So this kind of a question comes in their mind. So what message you would like to give from your personal life?
I would like to say that, first of all, one should really, really want it yourself. Because if you really want it, you'll make it happen. That is number one. Second is that women try to be perfectionists, and we love this game of beating ourselves up in terms of guilt that I wasn't a great mother, I didn't do justice at work, and forever we are on this guilt trip. Let's leave it out of the window, because it's impossible to be really fantastic at all things all the time. You can be
Correct.
at some things sometime. We
Correct.
have to choose wisely as to what is important at what point in time, and make those wise decisions, and be at peace, enjoy the ride, because we are so otherwise caught up in blaming ourselves and feeling stressed out, that decades just passed like that. So let's also enjoy and savor every moment, whether it's personal or professional. I think that is important. And third is that look out for examples, look out for people who can bat for you. It is important in the organization to have people who trust you, who see that spark in you. My advice would be not to job hop. Create what I call as a goodwill bank in the company, that you can encash on that goodwill bank when you need it. So play the game somewhat wisely. Make yourself invaluable to the company, that the company will bend backwards to your tune when you really want it, when you're going through a tough time at home. So I think these three things together will ensure that at least you're at peace with whatever decision that you get to make.
That's a lovely point that you have made. Me and my wife, we have been working over the last 13 years, and we have 2 children. And she's very actively involved in business. And we often have this discussion, and she had this problem, or I would say this thought, which was rolling in her mind, of making everything happen together. It could be from your workouts
Yeah.
to your business,
Yeah.
and to your 2 child, which is at home.
Yeah.
And somehow you will not be able to manage everything together.
Yeah.
And at the back, you have your parents also who will expect your time, and then you will not be able to manage. So we agreed on this, that you cannot perfect all of them together. Sometimes something will be up, something will be. You should be
Absolutely.
okay with it. So that's a very valid point, I would say. And as you rightly said, you need to have that burning desire that you need to have it. Otherwise, you will have excuses all the time.
Absolutely.
So rightly said. One fun fact about you, what people do not know.
I think I'm the best apple pie maker and quiche Lorraine maker. World class.
Excellent.
So that's a lot of things that people don't know. I can cook only 2 things very well, and these are the 2 things. But I'm very good at it. Yes.
Excellent. So with this, thank you so much, Vibhaji. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a lovely conversation. Some of your messages about creating a world-class insurance company, messages for the women who are always perplexed and confused, sometimes because of too many things on the plate. Your message of your learnings about attention to details, and the other major learnings which you shared with us during the show. I'm sure everybody who's been listening to this today would definitely have a lot of takeaways. And once again, thank you so much for your time. And I wish you, your entire team, your entire family, a very successful and a lovely journey going ahead. Thank you so much. I'll stop this conversation here. Once again, thank you so much for taking out time, ma'am.
Not at all. And I wish Treasury Elite a grand way ahead. I think, I think the way you guys are connecting and shrinking the world is fantastic.
No, thanks for your time. I mean, this is the first time we are having somebody from insurance. In fact, we've had people from various sectors, but a lovely addition in the insurance part also. And I'm sure this will be a tremendous, inspiration for all the women who are part of Treasury Elite.
Thank you so much.